I heard Alan Dershowitz talk about Rudy Giuliani Monday on the Megyn Kelly podcast, and I just thought he made such good points, and I wanted you to hear them. But I also had a couple of questions for Mr. Dershowitz on this particular case and what it means if it's not repaired. Welcome, Alan Dershowitz, host of the Dershow. How are you, sir?
Well, thank you. I'm doing good, but I'm very concerned. You know, I've been a lawyer for 60 years. I taught legal ethics for about 35 years at Harvard. I have never seen a case like the Rudy Giuliani case. First of all, they deny him an evidentiary hearing. They say you have to prove not only that what he said was false, but knowingly false, that he knew it was false. He denies that, and yet they didn't take evidence. They just suspended him, saying that the suspension is likely to become permanent without any kind of an opportunity for him to respond. Moreover, I have never seen a case where lawyers have been disciplined, not necessarily for what they say in court. Some of the allegations are what he said in court, but others of the allegations are what he said on television, on Fox, on Newsmax, on podcasts. Why is that not protected by the First Amendment? I think everybody will concede, the court will concede, that everything Rudy Giuliani said would be protected by the First Amendment if he weren't a lawyer. What's the difference that he's a lawyer?
I mean, I watch lawyers on TV all the time. For instance, in the Chauvin case, I've heard the lawyers talk about how this is all about race, and yet when they got into the court, there wasn't one word about race. Well, was he right? Should he be suspended?
Well, I can tell you many, many thousands of lawyers would be suspended if this decision by the appellate division in New York were applied across the board universally. There's a famous case where a prosecutor held up a pair of underpants saying it belonged to the defendant and that the red on it was his blood when the prosecutor knew it was paint. The guy got sentenced to death. Ultimately, it was reversed, but the lawyer wasn't disciplined or disbarred. I've experienced myself probably 24 cases where lawyers have made misstatements to the court. I filed a grievance. Against David Boies, a prominent lawyer, the senior partner in Boies Schiller, who has had many ethical complaints against him in the Theranos case, in the Winston case, you name it, in other cases. He says to me on tape, I have it on tape. He says to me, the woman who accused you is wrong, simply wrong. You couldn't have been in the places she said you were in when she claimed to have sex with you. He says that on tape. And then just a short time later, he files a complaint saying she's telling the truth and everything she says is truthful. He knows that that's false. And I filed a complaint with the same disciplinary board that disciplined Giuliani, and they wouldn't even consider the complaint. They wouldn't even investigate. That's how selective this prosecution is, and it's unfair. They're going after Giuliani not because of what he said, but because of who he defended, and because they don't agree with his politics.
So here's the scary thing, Alan. We know that it would not be universally applied because it never works out that way, strangely, because it's about politics. However, this should shock every attorney to know that if you fall on the wrong side of an issue, you can be suspended. But also, this goes to something else. I have one of the best First Amendment attorneys in the country from Washington, D.C., battling with us. I've had them for 20 years and battling with them, et cetera, et cetera. We're in the middle of something and we get dropped. And the reason why we're dropped is because it will cause problems with some of the other cases and the partners that we have. Excuse me?
Yeah.
They were making political calculations on who they were going to represent. Alan, if this kind of stuff continues, if you're unpopular, you're not going to get an attorney.
Well, I remember this from the 1950s. I was a year too young to know this, but I was in college when McCarthyism was rearing its ugly head, and no lawyer would dare to represent somebody who was accused of being a communist or a fellow traveler or too far left. Yesterday, it was the left that was complaining against the right. Today, it's the right that's being victimized by the left. And you know what's going on in this world today? The hard left has become the enemy of free speech, due process, and equal protection of the laws. And they call themselves progressives. They don't want equality. They want identity politics. They don't want due process. If a woman says it's true, it must be true. Why have a hearing? They don't want free speech. If we don't agree with you, you shouldn't be able to say it. Free speech for me, but not for thee. What has happened to the hard left and the Constitution? They see the Constitution as the enemy of their utopia. They don't realize that without these constitutional rights, every utopia turns into a dystopia. If you don't believe that, look at Castro's Cuba, look at Mao's China, look at Stalin's Russia, and you'll see historically it's always been the case. When you end these rights, you end freedom and liberty, and we have to fight against it. I'm a liberal Democrat. I voted for Joe Biden. I voted for Hillary Clinton. I voted for Barack Obama. I voted for Bill Clinton. I voted for every Democrat. I'm as concerned as if I were today a Republican. And they can come after me tomorrow because I defended President Trump in front of the United States Senate. And I'm suing CNN because they totally distorted what I said. And I won the first round of my case against CNN. And I hope I will win the subsequent rounds as well. We cannot allow this attack on the Constitution to continue.
But, you know, I wish there were more liberals like you. I mean, this is what a liberal used to be. And I don't know where those people are hiding. I don't know if they don't exist, they don't see the threat, or they're afraid to say anything, or that Donald Trump was so bad that, you know, ends justify the means. I don't know where they are.
That's what I think many of them say. That's what they tell me. You know, people don't talk to me anymore on Martha's Vineyard. They don't talk to me in other places, mostly Martha's Vineyard. These are people whose kids I wrote recommendations for college, whose kids I got up at 3 a.m. and helped get out of jail when they were picked up with drugs or with alcohol. These are people I have done things for over the years. Today they won't talk to me because I defended the President of the United States, and Trump is different. Nothing applies to Trump. The Constitution is suspended when it comes to Trump. That's the road to tyranny.
Wow. Let me ask you this. The ex-FBI lawyer that lied to the FISA court, I mean, he changed documents. He got a 1-year bar suspension. Rudy Giuliani is facing a life suspension. This guy gets a 1-year suspension from the bar. Doesn't that seem a little light for somebody who went into court, knowingly changed documents to have it say the exact opposite in a FISA court?
Yeah, especially a FISA court, because there's no other side of the FISA court. The FISA court isn't an adversarial system. One side is presented. And so that side is expected to present everything fairly in a pristine manner because they have a special responsibility. Look, I think what that guy is accused of doing is far worse than anything that Giuliani is accused of doing.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Coming down so hard on Giuliani. I would like to have somebody go through all the cases where the appellate division in New York or the disciplinary board in New York has refused to take action against lawyers. For the most part, they take action against lawyers who steal money from clients. They very rarely take action against lawyers who lie in court. I have had so many cases in the Southern District of New York where prosecutors have said things that are clearly untrue, and I've written books about it. And I've, argued appeals based on it, but I've never seen any lawyer disbarred because of it. I don't want to see lawyers disbarred. I'm against the weaponization of the justice system for political and partisan purposes, but I don't want to see Giuliani treated to a double standard and denied due process and denied free speech rights.
Well, but wait a minute. You should get in trouble if you're lying in court.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you?
Yeah. You have an obligation
and
with the court, but you have no obligation to be candid on Fox Television or in Glenn Beck's radio show. I'm always going to be candid because that's who I am. I have never deliberately said anything that's untrue on any radio or television show to my knowledge, and I'm going to continue to maintain that standard for myself. But I don't want to see the government have the power to determine whether what I've said to you is true or false. Once you give the government that power, and Bar Association disciplinary groups are the government, you give them the power to chill advocacy, to chill free speech, and you give them the power to selectively enforce the law. And that's so dangerous. You know, one of the dictators of South America famously said, "For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law." The law is so powerful. You can use it so effectively against your enemies. And what we're seeing right now is a Banana Republic-style attempt to try to go after former President Trump and his family and his company and his associates. And that's what happens again in banana republics. When you undo a government, you go after the former government. You put them in jail. You kill them. You do all those things. That's what determines whether it's a tyranny or democracy. In America, we generally applaud our former office holders. We don't go after them. But here you have in New York, the Attorney General of the state of New York runs for office without seeing a bit of evidence, runs for office on the campaign pledge that she will get Trump. It's not what an attorney general should do, and that's not a fair way of approaching criminal justice.
From the Dershow, Alan Dershowitz. You can grab his podcast wherever you get your podcast. As always, Alan, thank you very much for your honesty. I know we disagree, I'm sure, on a lot of things, but on telling the truth and
we can disagree,
but standing up for what is right.
Yeah.
All right, Alan, thank you so much. God bless. You bet.